Hey, my name is Violet Price. I'm making 2008 style video blogs where I just tell stories. One story I wanted to tell that I have not told in a very long time is when I was right out of college, I moved to San Francisco because I thought it was cooler than it was. I think some fantasy of beatniks and 80s discos and queer culture was in my head, but then you get there and it's just a bunch of fucking dudes who work at Yahoo who want to explain websites they read that day and forget what they are and like paraphrase memes. It was horrible. There was a little bohemian scene there, not an exciting one. I would have been better off in a different city in hindsight, but it was also a very special time in my life and there was a lot of magic. And I just played in a band most of the time and made music and made art and made comedy with my friends and had cheap rent and lived the bohemian 20s dream that everyone should be able to. One of my first jobs, when I first got there, I like majored in film score in college, which is there's no jobs for if you don't know people, especially in San Francisco. And I was looking for any job I could get. I was living on like the floor in like the projects. It was like the only apartment I could get. There was a housing crisis there. And I had like crazy, my first year there, it's amazing I survived. And I was working at temp agencies, which I hate. And then my friend Pam, just through the grapevine, found a like 3-day job working on American Idol. And that was probably the most important day of my life because I met 5 people that day who to this day are still my friends. And that through them, I like found my community and I found my culture. And we all worked in reality TV together. There was like a posse of us. They take me to the next job, to the next job, to the next job. And I have a lot of stories about reality TV. I don't think I'm under NDA anymore, but I'm going to try to be polite anyway, even though I don't give a fuck. They were all bastards. In reality TV, as a PA, you make $100 a day, 12-hour days, and then they try to keep you an extra couple hours. And if you don't, they won't rehire you. So you're really working 14, 15-hour days for $100. This was about 10 years ago. From what I understand, things have not changed in their practices. There was almost a walkout. We sort of unionized to get overtime, which was only like an extra 20, 30 bucks a day. But when you're making 100 bucks a day, you'll fight for it. We fought for it. Also, the shows are designed because everyone wants to work in TV that people just walked out. When I did Top Chef, the first season, there was probably 15 PAs started, let's say the first day, and by the end probably they'd gone through 50. The original people all turned over. A lot of people lasted 1 day because it's a terrible job. You're making $100 and they treat you like shit because they were treated like shit. There's like a hazing thing. And reality TV is garbage. The most interesting job I did though was a show that never aired. It was this comedian, I'll say his name. His name was Greg Barrett. He wrote a book called Maybe She's Not That Into You. It was one of those shows where you're doing the pilot, and even though pilots, there's no promise they're going to get picked up, he was an Oprah darling, and it was pretty clear that no matter what, the show was going to get picked up. And he's most famous for a Sex and the City episode where they did Maybe He's Not That Into You. I don't know. He was like a dorky comedian. I kind of liked him. You know, he was an okay dude. I thought he was, and by the end of the show, I really liked him. But initially, when I was working on that show, I was like, the most fucking asshole 23-year-old. I looked so fucking good. I wore designer sneakers, and I didn't really give a fuck about my job because it was $100, and these places would come into town and leave, and it didn't matter. That said, I mean, it's not like I was a dick, but like I was 23 years old. I didn't give a fuck. I remember on Top Chef, I was driving the van, and it was all the big producers, people who put millions of dollars into this show. And they thought I was funny because I was the only person, like I was just a kid who said whatever he thought. I didn't give a shit. And I remember they said like, oh, like, what do you think of Top Chef? And I said, a cooking show and a reality show? That's like the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. And it did, because I didn't know anything about TV. To me, those are just two things I hated. They thought I was funny because all I did was talk about how Top Chef was going to be the biggest failure in TV history, which, ha ha ha, it was very successful. But on this other show, the Greg Barrett Show, it was very interesting because it never aired. And the reason it never aired is because it fucked up someone's life. And the premise of the show was Greg Barrett was going to go into people's marriages and fix them. And they found a couple where like the guy doesn't pay enough attention to his wife, and the wife probably spends a little too much money. So Greg's going to show up, he's going to tell the wife, don't spend so much, the guy, pay attention to your wife, 22 minutes of entertainment after Oprah. How could this formula go wrong? And the way it went wrong was that people's lives are more complicated than that. Relationships don't have one thing you can fix in real life. So what was really going on is he was just manipulating and abusing her and gaslighting her. And as we do every like fun little stunt they had planned, the guy would just be like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care about this woman. Like, this marriage is pointless. And she would be like, oh God, he's gonna leave me. And by like the third day, and it was sad. Like the producer was trying to have fun with it. Like, oh, let's get him here. We're gonna get him on this. But they never got him on anything. They only got that he like kind of didn't give a fuck about his wife. And by like the third or fourth day, at the end of the show, the woman was like, you know what? I was gonna marry this guy, but if this airs, I will be so humiliated. Everyone in my life will hate me, and I cannot marry him anymore. This is like made it so I can't marry this guy who we didn't rock the boat. It would have probably, it would have ended eventually, but it wouldn't have ended in public scorn. On the last day, people were crying. So, like one of I believe it was the Steadicam operator or the crane operator was like, I'm not working on this show anymore. I don't like videotaping what we're videotaping. I don't like what's going on. And yeah, and it just didn't air. Like people were like having moral conversations, which in reality TV, to discuss morality on set, it's got to go pretty far. When the show came out, it was an amazing fix. It was Greg Barrett goes into sororities and breaks up fights, which I think is a safer topic. And I just wish everyone could be paid to be part of a film crew that's slowly realizing they are fucking up someone's life. It's a very interesting experience because it doesn't start out that way. Like everyone's just at work, and like you don't really pay attention to what you're shooting in reality. Once you've done it a couple times, people who are cast in reality, not on this show but in general, are the worst people you could possibly imagine. You see them on TV and you're like, this person's insane, but you meet them in real life and you've never met anyone like this. They're 10 times more insane. They are the most histrionic. Every single person on most reality shows is like a violent alcoholic. I'm surprised it doesn't come out more. And the way they manipulate the show is they deny them alcohol, and then like when they're about to break, which is why they're all fucking crazy on reality TV, they're all like legitimate alcoholics. And by like a certain day they have it planned out when they're about to break, they flood them with alcohol. And that's like your mid-season when things get really crazy. And like when I was on certain shows, I remember thinking like, oh, like this is a crazy fight. This is like the big fight. But the truth is they're constantly, those big reality TV moments, there are one of those every half hour. They are fighting, they are making up, they are histrionic, they are crying, they are just fucking absolutely insane people like you've never met in real life in alcohol withdrawal. And I would say the 5 biggest fights or the 5 biggest moments on a show didn't make the show. The stuff that makes it is ridiculous. Yeah, the other weird thing, like on Top Chef, I think I can say this, is that when you watch a reality show, it's 9 people living together every day, but what's really happening is it's really more like 13 people. So when I watch Top Chef, it is from my point of view. So it is, and the other thing is too, they make you work. I worked on that show 16 hours a day for 31 days straight. People were passing out on set. I passed out on set, and they just let me sleep because they were all tired too. I was wandering around, staring into space, like on day 25 of 6 hours of sleep a night, like drinking coffee, which is something I cannot do, that was like fucking up my body. And that's just part of the gig. They've all been hazed into it. That's the game. And when I go back and watch season 1 of Top Chef, for example, it is exactly I was there for every second of every shot. It was 31 days of like a grueling boot camp style experience. And it's funny too, because I just, maybe 2 years, maybe during the pandemic, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna watch Top Chef. And even though it was my life and my friends were in it, and I know the other thing is I know those contestants better than I know anyone. Because part of listening to their mics is for like 8 to 12 hours a day, I would listen to them, their conversations. And I would and what you don't know on reality TV is every conversation you have, even when you go to the bathroom, there are teams of people taking notes on it, who know everything about you, who are crafting questions they can ask you to antagonize you. Like the amount of it's so intense, it's kind of cool to see a team of people take notes on like one drunk dude and be like, how can we fuck this dude and make him look bad on TV? Which is all reality TV is, for most people, for most contestants. Yeah. So, but I watched that show, and by like episode 3, I'm like, yes, this was my life. Yes, it's cool that it was edited, but I do not want to watch this show. It's bad. Also, season 1 is in like standard def too, so it's like particularly bad. To go back a story, when Greg Barrett was on set, I was like a 22-year-old, like gorgeous. They called me Adonis on set. That was my nickname because I was so incredibly gorgeous. Italian, beautiful hair. I've always been beautiful. It's a gift. It's a curse. The Italian curse. I'm not Italian anymore, for the record. I'm post-Italian. I digress. When I like it was my first day on set, and I did not know who Greg Barron was, of course, because I was a 22-year-old asshole with a chip on my shoulder. And he saw me. He showed up. He had like yellow glasses on and a chain wallet. And he walks up to me and he's like, blows off all the producers, comes up to me because I'm like the coolest one there in his mind, and he's just like, these people look like, they're kind of squares, am I right? And I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are, dude. I like iced him so fucking hard. I'm like, you think you're as cool as me and you're trying to talk to me? Like, I don't know, dude. I don't know who you fucking are. And of course it was his show. And of course, I alpha dogged him and he appreciated it. Like through the show, I'd give him an approving nod. And I think he was looking for the coolest 22-year-old there to approve of him, as many 27-year-olds are. Anyway, that was an amazing show to destroy someone's life and not air it. Anyway, yeah, it was the weirdest job in the world though, because every show was just fucking grueling, and it made no money. I made no money in reality. I made $100 a day. It was abuse. Anyway, that's why we strike, and that's my couple of my random stories from my stupid 23-year-old shitty job days. Big up.